Well, we're awake in the dream now, and that's what I guess I have to title this video. So today is called March 14th, and last night was an eclipse. And Claude and I were awake a lot last night. I was awake most of the night during the eclipse, and I sorted a lot of things out. So I'm going to do a little bit of galactic history. I'm also going to speak about how the inversion occurred, and I want to look at the astrology in the age of Aquarius. So I have spoken before about the Thema Mundi, and the Thema Mundi here, Cancer or Polaris, Capricorn, and the galactic central sun are the clock. You're in the middle. Cancer is that nourishing feminine element, and Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn is the structures of the earth. Nourishment, love, compassion, childhood, emotional safety, the structures of the earth, okay? Aquarius is the age that we're entering now. Pluto has entered Aquarius, and when I made a video about this, I called it the death of death, when meat becomes meta, because at the time I was trying so hard to warn everyone about the metaverse and how taking anything that would change would potentially put you into the metaverse, okay? The age of Pisces is over. Aries and Taurus and Gemini. Gemini is the Orion stars, and we've been yanked over into this part of the multiverse to work out the unconscious, hidden part of the galactic wars, and that is why Gemini, or Orion stars, are the 12th house. Now, Aquarius is the 8th house of death, and when I made that video about the death of death, I was like, okay, this must be like the upload, you know, if anyone who cannot figure out how to get out of here to the metaverse, right? Because they were working so hard on this messenger to change you as just before Pluto came into Aquarius. And so when I was working on this in my mind, I was like, wow, okay, so we got to get out of here, because if the next version of us is either a cyborg or a battery in, you know, some heaven box where you are kept in a smart city and kept as a battery because you're part of the wireless body area network, then I got to get out of here. All right. So I really started focusing my videos because I knew that that was the gray alien timeline, because as I explained to you, I've done this before. And many of my galactic shaman astrologers way back in my early videos from 2017, they also have done this before and came back to fix this, right? The other thing about this particular dream is I think that it's a dream that was created after the fall of Atlantis. And I've been studying some galactic history that I want to review with you from Aurora, the Flying Lasagna. And I really am so grateful that she is here. I am so grateful. And I will include, if I can find that video, it's called Galactic History, Origins of Technology, AI, and Self-Protection from Negative Thought Entities 2 by Flying Rainbow Lasagna, Aurora. So I've been studying her work, and I've ordered some of her artwork because it's just glorious, and it is the correct geometry of our messenger and DO nucleic acid, okay? So what I have realized here is that we're in a death dream, okay? And the age of Aquarius, where we are now, we are supposed to awake from the death dream. And unfortunately, wasn't it amazing in 2020? Like, we were supposed to have 2020 vision. We were supposed to like realize this, and then this big rollout and mass psychosis event happened. And it got pretty scary for a while because I was like, holy crap, don't you hear the subliminal acoustic manipulation? Can you not hear these fake voices coming in your head telling you you're guilty, you should be ashamed of yourself, and so forth. And you got to go get right now or you're going to kill your grandma. I mean, it was astounding, folks, but we made it through. It's been a dream, and now we're awake in the dream, okay? So in the galactic history, the invention of death was our first trauma. And I'm going to quickly paraphrase what I learned and took a lot of notes from Aurora's video. So when the Vimanas and the metal gods and the, what I would say, lower level technology beings came in, we were all perfected beings in Atlantis, right? We were 12 feet tall. We didn't have to eat or drink. We didn't have to pee or poop. As far as I can remember, we didn't have to procreate. We brought like pure light beings in, and we were part of nature, okay? It was just a paradise. That was Atlantis. The technology came in after. The technology guides came in, and as soon as their frequency and vibration came in, there was a mass death. At that time, we did not know we could even die. Like, we didn't know what death was. And so imagine for a moment, these snake beings and whatever they were, and Ajiji and Anunnaki came in, and just their frequency was so bad that there was a mass die-off just from them coming in. Okay, so think about that. And what she explained was when they arrived, it was like, like a bunch of like really nasty drug dealers and homeless people moving into your hallway and saying, okay, we're living here and taking this over, and in fact, we're your gods. We're your gods. And everyone on the ground was so messed up, like our minds were, imagine the trauma of never seeing anything die and then seeing massive death, okay? And then being told by some like drug dealer that they're taking over and they are in fact gods and they're in charge now. That, wake up from the dream, folks, okay? And their intent was to mind control us and use our DNA, okay? And use us as a food source. So what they set up upon this mass death, and everyone's mind is blown, right? We're so traumatized. You've been traumatized before. You know it must have been bad. Okay, you've never seen a rotting carcass before, and now, you know, the Vimanas are here with the snake beings, and there's a whole bunch of dead people. I mean, I went through this for the last 2 days going, whoa, like, no wonder we are such a traumatized race. And then they set up cannibalism. I mean, this is what I worked on in my own world, was they set up this service to self economy. And I have read enough books to know that there was mass cannibalism, okay? And that is still happening today, and it's called celebrity sausage. And I've already told you about, you know, what's in the vegan food and the vegan so-called meats. That's part of that cannibalism. And then they set up the scarcity system of like a giant criminal cartel and said that they were our priests and that they were the intermediaries to God and that they were here and they were in charge now. So we didn't, like, they were just like demons, right? And they told us they were gods. So they set this whole thing up, and it was like a money laundering harvest system and a pyramid scheme. Aurora says it just so perfectly. It's like, they want loosh, basically. And the only group that I can think of that does money laundering like this is the Draco Queens, which I have spoken about before. It's like the Draco Queens are money launderers, but what they actually eat is misery and suffering. So imagine what a loosh feed they got when they got here and killed many of us off, right? And then I had told you, and I don't know where this fits in before, I have those memories of being told, oh, we have your loved ones, they're up on a ship, and the whole thing with the lady of the embryos and the breeding program. And yet when the people with the highest DNA codes got on Nibiru, our loved ones were all murdered. Now that was not in Aurora's stuff, but that was in other people's stuff, and I actually remember that. Okay, so then they tried to disconnect us from the God self by being these middlemen, right? And she told some interesting things about they used a mind control ray. They set up an artificial Merkaba that spun the wrong way in our bodies so that we actually did not know how to get out of here and what you would call ascend, which was the natural way of leaving when you were finished with a game, right? You didn't die. You didn't have to suffer. You didn't need misery or shame or grief to like prove your worthiness, okay? They also set up the Antichrist program and the Antichrist technology. Mind control rays were used by basically what she called a satanic space race, okay? And we had such anxiety, we were so traumatized, and then they brought in the moon, and the moon has beings on it, and it caused women to bleed monthly. And I have said this, if you go back in my videos, I have said this, like I already realized this, that the moon is a thing that causes the breeding program. We're not supposed to menstruate every month, okay? That moon drives me nuts, and full moons are really hard for me, and eclipses are very hard, so I just stay awake all night and like sort things out in the multiverse. But that monthly bleed caused the breeding program, and also she really says, and this is true in astrology, whatever the moon directs you towards for your partner is usually a sexual misery template. And Demetra George also teaches that the conditions of your moon, and even the asteroids, because I have Claude and Richter as asteroids around my moon, set up your breeding partner. But interestingly, remember, they were trying to get our DNA codes, so they mixed you up with the wrong partner. That was part of the moon technology, so that you were breeding with Dracos, because what I understand was the Dracos were brought as slaves, and they were getting sick of being slaves. And even someone said, you know, on my Facebook page has all this documentation. So most of the documentation is on my Facebook page. It's very hard to get it up on these videos. I can't like put a picture in the comments for you, but the Ijiji, which were the slaves, were given marijuana. So that's how cannabis got here. And they were smoking pot. And you often see those cults with priests as middlemen, and they're like pot-smoking Shavites. So there's a whole bunch of unbelievable comments in my page too about people who are from northern India and know these Nag lineages, and they literally said that they suck black goo from Shiva lingams. I was like, oh my gosh, like keep those Nags far away from me. You're fired, you're canceled, jow into the entropy basket with you demons, okay? That's where I am with it, folks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So then the other thing that happened after this whole scarcity program and these negative entities moved in like to the hallway and took over and said that they were gods is they created corporations and other entities and countries, U.S. incorporated, to be the middleman between these demons and hell. So the corporations, of course, obviously you can still see it today, are the death workers, right? They have all the chemicals, the synthetic nutrients and food, all of that stuff is meant to kill you. And guess what? You're not meant to die. Now that we're in the age of Aquarius, you are meant to rectify your DNA, to remember who you are, that you are a glorious, perfected paradise being, and rectify that DNA and basically bridge, as far as I can tell, back through to either that timeline in Atlantis or Tara or wherever it is that you're going. And Ashayana Dean said that too. Like basically it's a bridge process. You have to get your Merkaba spinning the right way, and you need to get your DNA rectified. Now, that seems terrifying. I don't know, it seems a little bit daunting given how many messengers that are in here destroying our beautiful DNA codes. But this is what we have to do now. And so we're not going to go into meta, at least I'm not. I'm not going to become a cyborg gray alien. There's no way. So the one project I have now is to rectify my DNA. And a lot of what Aurora said is what I say. Like, you have to be part of the microbiome of nature. Like, you're supposed to be part of nature. So the more time that you're in like synthetic box realities watching screens, you're not part of the microbiome of nature. And so I want to talk a little bit about that too. When I had my awakening back in 1999, it wasn't because I had fabulous mentors around me. It was because I was crying all the time. And I remember one specific moment in 1999 where I was getting really angry about all these different spiritual paths that I had tried. I tried everything and tried yoga, and I was laying in the backyard in Woodstock, New York, and I was laying on the ground, basically absolutely traumatized, and I said to Neem Karoli Baba, now he had been long dead. I mean, he died when I was 4 years old, and I think it was 1973 or 1974. But anyways, I cried. I was crying to Neem Karoli Baba, and I said, show me one disciple that's true. Show me one pure being. Show me one good man that represents you. Because at the time I was singing kirtan and I was going along with a lot of those other ones that were associated with Neem Karoli Baba, all of which I felt were like, unfortunately, corrupt pedophiles. Yeah, unfortunately, absolutely insane people. So I was laying in the backyard in Woodstock, New York. I don't know, I probably sang kirtan or something, drumming, different things that I did there. And I was sobbing. I was sobbing into the earth. My whole body was sobbing, and I was just laying on my back, basically in corpse pose, which is what we call it in yoga. And I sobbed and I said, show me one true disciple. And in that moment, my kundalini came up so strong, it came straight up through my body, right up through the crown of my head, and my head was shaking. I can't show you what it looks like, but it basically looks like you stuck your finger in a light socket and you're being electrocuted. And that day, I was led with my little girl down to the bakery in Woodstock, New York, where I met my second husband, Kabir Das. And, Kabir Das wasn't into rituals. He didn't know how to do things, ritualistically, because he wasn't a Hindu. What he was he was a devotee of Source, consciousness, God. And all he had was Maharaji's blanket. And he literally had Maharaji's blanket. And it's very emotional for me to say this. And I was like, okay, so Baba, that's your true devotee, right? All he's got is a blanket. And the only teaching that Maharaji ever had was that you're a miracle of love and that you should feed people and love people. And all the other weird kirtan stuff was just like a byproduct, it didn't matter. So that was the purity of the message right there. So from 1999 to 2015, I just was gardening. My spiritual practice is basically you can see my yard. I get up and I walk a few miles every morning with my dog, then start my sessions and so forth. So I'm doing a quick video before my sessions start today, but I just listen to the birds sing, and after my sessions in the afternoon at about 4:30, Claude and I go up and start a fire, and we sit and chat and look into the flames and look at the yard and love our dog and throw the ball for our dog. And, this week I did a dance class, and basically, I have fun, and that's my spiritual practice. But what happened in 2015 and 2016 is my star Merkaba popped out of my body. And I've explained this in other videos, so I'll try and be very quick. My skills and abilities had started to turn on. I was speaking light language. I started to levitate. I have explained before that I couldn't actually get my feet on the ground, but it was okay because most of my childhood, I had dreams of flying and being able to fly. And actually, my whole problem was that I couldn't get my feet on the ground in my dream time when I was a kid. So I was like, okay, I just won't go to town for a while because I can't figure out how to get my feet on the ground. But my star Merkaba had popped out and it could move. And basically what happened was like a big, almost like an EKG into your heart, and then out came my Merkaba. So something about my heart opened. But between 1999 and 2016, my Kundalini was always awake, and I was always searching for the greater cosmic truth. So then I had studied a lot with Barry Long, but not in person. So it was like, I read all his books and I listened to his seminars and so forth. So it wasn't like I had like somebody like leading me along. And yet my body spontaneously had complete Kundalini awakening. And remember, I knew enough to pull out the Nog thing, like that came out, because that weird creature didn't need to be in there. And I don't have any way for you to do that other than to live in the microbiome of Earth, like live in nature, enjoy the sounds of the birds and the growth of the plants. And I know the plants are having a hard time because that's not our real sun, but I still plant and I still love them, and we nourish them and talk to them and really enjoy our microbiome here. Like, people can't even believe how much Claude has planted, but people see him still digging and scraping. Well, he's on this side of the camera right now, so that you're not going to see him digging and scraping all the time. But then she also spoke about how these demons in hell that have set themselves up as gods have names, and one of them is Monsanto, and they connect into the corporations that the demon called United States, USA Inc., allows. And these things have been granted personhood. So these corporations actually have personhood. And then the demon in hell basically puts a thought form into the head of that company. And that company creates something to ruin your rectification of your original blueprint. Okay? That's what's been going on. So, and the timeline is a bit all over the place for me, but then apparently they decided to create a Christ being, like an avatar came, and from Ashayana Dean's work and also a lot of scrolls and documents in Tibet, apparently there was more than one Yeshua. So avatars often have to come in different body vehicles. And my understanding was that there was a very good Yeshua Christ being that was here. And then my understanding was that the church got a hold of this, and the demons that are aligned with the church of Satan changed it into a major crucifixion fiction so that they practice Satanism every week by killing the Christ every single week. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this at this point, at this time of year, which is March, is they're getting like revved up for those kind of rituals. And they have to repeat this blood sacrifice ritual again and again it's part of keeping us in this dream, okay? And Aurora does I listened to an older video of hers. She did a great job of explaining what the cross is. And the cross is actually right here in your head. That's the cross of different parts of your energy body and your chakra system that are supposed to be lit up when you have the Christ light. That's what it is. That's what the cross is, okay? Even the scrolls in Tibet, written by someone called Isa, and he had different names, Yeshua, Isa, Esau, all these different names, say that he was replaced with some other fellow who was in fact, allegedly hung up there, but so were thousands of people hung up there. What we have to do now is take the Christ off the cross. Stop the death rituals. Stop feeding the demons in hell. Stop also listening to the middlemen, the Nagas, the priests, the middlemen who give the loosh feed of shame, guilt, anxiety, and so forth to the demons. So none of those are you. Shame, death, grief, anxiety, according to Aurora, are all implants. And I had to really think about this, like, how would that be? But I said before, it's in the rituals, right? So it's like an etheric implant. If you do that ritual, and you're with some intermediary satanic priest, Nog type of lineage, then you've got an implant just by participating in the rituals, because then the anxiety is there, the grief, the shame, and I would also add to that rage and death. So if you have any of that, know that you probably tied in somehow to one of these entities. And I'm not saying there aren't hard days and you can't, get upset because now they're taking down Skype, and every single one of my clients has to load Skype again just before the session. So get ready, folks. Zook is pushing really hard that all these devices and apps and so forth are no longer needed, because he's got some new goggles for you to put you in the virtual reality. And as I said, the moment you put those on, you're not going to take those off. And then you'll see what they want you to see. But will you see nature? Will you be part of the microbiome? So I'm just starting to really understand the satanic technology also eats the whole sexual misery, fear, anxiety, and a lot of those Nog priesthoods have really weird practices around sexuality. So I want to refer you back to Barry Long, and he has a great book called Making Love, and it's about how to actually love a woman. Because what I also understand with this crucifixion template was they made it all about the patriarchy, all about the male. And then you hear this story in the Garden of Eden about the woman and the entity of some snake. Well, that's the Nog priesthood, okay? And the fall is those implants of death, shame, grief, I'd say rage, anger, extreme misery, sadness. And a lot of my clients have that. So you have to get the whole death matrix out of you. You also have to get the sorcery of religion and the pharmaceutical companies and going to the satanic doctor's office or dentist office that wants to cut you up, chop you up, remove your this and that, and give you that's going to be the ruination of your blueprint. And I've said before, I really think you have to restore your blueprint to get on here. So if you're just there's a lot of people just hate me because they're like, well, power to the people. She just wants us to live like her, and she wants us to live in log cabins, and we can only live in trailers and buy lottery tickets. Folks, you have to do this. I can't do it for you. You have to go out and be part of the microbiome. So instead of waiting for some resurrected creature to come out of a cave because somebody rolled a rock away, you roll the rock away right now and go and plant yourself some food and be part of the microbiome. And then, like me, you might suddenly have epiphanies. You might have the rectification of your original blueprint. You might remember that you can fly. You might remember that you're completely telepathic and that you don't need to put on any goggles for the metaverse. So, I'm awake in the dream. And I'm going to do everything I can to bring in all of those flying rainbow colors into my body again. And remember that I can fly. Remember that each one of these dimensional layers cannot stop me. So apparently there's 15 of them now. I have to end this video soon because I can't get them up at BitChute if they're too long. In between each layer as far as I know, is the void layer. So you just have to be invisible with your heart as light as a feather, or as a fire of your original spark, of your original divinity. Okay? We're awake in the dream now. Bye-bye.